Hello there, people of the internet. My name is Udur Jagero, and this is Dialogues with Jagero. Today, I am with Byron Adera, the gentleman who has a lot to say about military life, about mental health, and about command. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Jagero.
Yeah, how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing great.
I want to officially tell my audience who you are, but I want you to tell me a little bit after this. You're going to tell me a little bit of who you are, where you were born, and things like that. So, Byron Adera is a seasoned. I'm getting this from your website. A seasoned consultant with expertise in security analysis. I loved it when I was reading it. Training and writing, covering topics like security and safety, mental health, fitness, and community matters, among others. You are also, you began his professional journey post-graduation from the Army Cadet. Officer training, commissioned as a platoon commander in Kenya Parachute Regiment. So you achieved a reputable status within the regiment and pioneered the Kenya Special Forces, eventually serving as the operations officer in the elite unit, participating in numerous successful operations, both domestically and internationally, till your departure in 2012. Then you transitioned to corporate security, initially as the operations director of the UK-based FOR. I don't know if that is how it's supposed to be pronounced. X4. In Kenya, leading the company to receive a Security Excellence Award in 2012. Which is important. Congratulations.
Thank you.
At a significant staff expansion of over 1,050 personnel within a year. So, in 2014, you ventured into consultancy and specialist security services, also serving as the country spokesman for the Association of Corporate and Industrial Security Management Professionals in Kenya. So that's a long CV, my good man. You come from just around where I come from. Yes. That is Kano.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Nyando. I come from the former Nyando district.
Okay.
But I come from Nyakachilowa. So we are from the same. So I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you so much.
As my village mate. It's very interesting. A lot of people have always wanted to be in the military, but it all ends in failure. I have got a few of my cousins that are police officers. I have a gentleman, my cousin, who has been right now he's in Congo. There is a deployment in Congo.
Yes, there is.
He was in South Somalia, and he has told me some very, very horror stories about what happened in Somalia. So anyway, I think also sometimes getting into the military is because some people think that it is an easy way into employment. So what is your story about getting into the military? Where were you born? Where did you grow up? How did you start thinking, all right, I need to go into the army?
Well, interesting question, Mr. Jagero, and thanks for the great job that you did trying to check me out.
Yes.
They say the internet never lies, right?
A
few lies are there, though. A bunch. Just to say
I've stalked you a little bit online. Your Instagram is really dope. Your TikTok is dope. A lot of training. I really, every now and again I look at people training and I really feel bad about myself because I can't train. I really can't train. I have a problem with my foot. It really messes me. If I do train, when I started having a problem with my foot, that's when I realized that the foot is very important. Your feet are very important in terms of training.
You spend a lot of time on your feet, man.
Yeah.
So, but then those are hurdles that we can fix. To be sincere, yes, thanks to the great social media management team that I have behind me. Steve Ranka is a big man, great man in that field, with huge following. And of course, the production team now, the cloud, this world, they're doing a great job. The team that I brought with me here as well. And so, yes, I do appreciate the CV that you've read out. There's quite some bit that I think is left out as well. And I thank, God, for life and for the far that we've come. A lot of people don't imagine that with all that, then just 40 years under the sun.
Yeah.
So it's quite.
You're 40 years?
Yes.
I'm 41.
I cracked the ceiling.
Yeah?
Yeah, 20th of May was a good day. It was on a Friday.
Yeah,
I was born on a Friday. Oh, like today. Like today, born on a Friday. So yes, you are right when you mention about people having quite some hurdles to get into the army. That's right. And I think fairly much a lot of people get it wrong when they aim off to in the army, and they're thinking it's just like any other employment, which quite clearly it is not. You know, people signing up to join in the profession of arms has got to benefit from more inspirations other than just, you know, money. Because if it's money, then you'd be disappointed in a way. I kept telling guys, you know, when we signed up for the parachute regiment after the cadet training, or if you joined as a recruit, the parachute allowance was 3,000 shillings. Would that inspire you to throw your life in the air with a piece of nylon on your back?
No.
And to be involved in the hairiest of operations when the country dials 911, it's calling you?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Maybe
so you
not.
can start to imagine how...
Surgical operations.
Absolutely. And that's just the parachute regiment, but it was the most specialized then. I mean, those are the deadliest warriors you can never think about. But then you have the Ranger Strike Force within the Special Operations Regiment now in the Army, in the KDF today. You now have the parachute regiment, which was more specialized then when we were, you know, joining way back in 2007. And then you have the Ranger Strike Force, and then you have the biggest and the baddest club where the Special Forces now sit, which is on top of the spear, the tip of the spear.
Is this the one is it comparable to one that took out Osama bin Laden?
Absolutely. It's the same community. There's one fraternal order. So the Navy SEALs of this world, I was trained by the 22SS British outfit, which is the pioneer Special Forces unit globally. So the Navy SEALs got their template from them. The Delta Forces of this world, again, template from them. Ourselves now. All the Special Forces that you can write home about, the New Zealand Special Air Service, all these people, okay? So then the inspiration has got to be, and this should be known and spelled clearly out to the general citizenry, that it's not a job like any other. You got to really feel it burning deep down, you know, deep in your heart, that you are someone who's selfless in service, okay? And who has a refinement beyond ordinary men and women out there. And because this is a noble job. This is where you put your life on the line in order to take other lives. And for who? For people that could be complete strangers. It's in defense of a nation, that territorial borders of this nation and to its threats, imaginable or real, okay? So when you tune your mind to those key aspirations, let's call them that, then you can have that introspection and say, this is not for me. And that's why when you find a lot of people flooding the fields of recruitment, there's quite some disappointment, because they're going to pick a few of you, 1, 2, 3, maybe 5. Okay, turning up for the recruitment in the entire district, and that's why you're hearing of all these disappointments. Then, sadly, the situations where people have had to bribe their way into the system. We
are going to be talking about that, a lot of it. But let's talk about your life. Growing, were you born in Nairobi? Were you born in Kisumu?
I'm an Ushago guy, 100% Ushago guy. I'm a village man. Maybe same as you.
Yeah.
Like you grew up in town, man.
Yes. That don't look like town, bro. I was brought up in the you know, we walked barefoot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was. We were just in the
our
village.
children are shocked when you talk about those stories.
Yeah.
But yes, I was you know, a village boy. Was born you know, in a good family, very strictly following through the strongest ethos of the village, and you know, I reminisce about those days, and it's very interesting.
So you were born in a family of where? In a family
of 8, last born boy for a very long time, a last born in the family for a long time until our very last born came. 5-6 years after I was born. So yes, you could call me the mama's boy.
Mama's boy.
I was. So yes, I was born in this family way back in 1983, you know, 20th of May. And I grew up through some challenges as it started. I was a sickling boy, maybe didn't pick up, the health was, and my other name is interesting, so Owiti. So if you know the traditional, you know, factors that bring up. Yes, so I was thrown away, in a sense. So I was born between I and my sister that I follow, and I were 2 children that were born and died young. So the traditional practice is you are passed through the window, and some, when all the women congregate and you're picked and you're thrown away somewhere, you put away somewhere, and then a stranger walks by and picks you. The whole idea is to confuse the evil spirits that are attacking there.
Yes.
So that was my story. Of course, then my health picked up, and that's why I'm here today. Thank God. Yeah. The family was great, if not excellent. A dad who started off as a banker, then got into education system, so started off as a normal teacher, then rose all the way to become an education officer. By the time he was actually retiring, he was senior in the province as they were then. An educationist par excellence, a disciplinarian. His integrity was beyond reproach, incorruptible. And that's why I'm here today, following through those footsteps. Even by dollar terms, you cannot... I cannot take a bribe, let's say, in dollar terms. Yeah, and that has got to do with character, not the value of a bribe or quantity, in a sense. And that's why literally, we found each other in the soldiering world. So through primary, I performed. I was excellent in my class. In rare occasions, I was position 2 in my class. Various occasions. Through secondary school as well. And then I was in campus, the University of Nairobi. The College of Agriculture and Veterinary Studies, Abakabete. So that's how. That is.
You got into university and.
Yes, then left by third year, first semester, or thereabout, to join cadet.
Why did you leave?
What I was doing was boring as it could get.
Agriculture can be boring.
Vet studies, yes.
Vet studies
can be as. I didn't see myself as a vet, neither did I see myself as an agricultural man. Well, there's people and there's a profession. So I feel purpose. Someone's purpose is a strong thing to follow. I didn't see myself as that. I saw myself as an engineer.
There's a friend of mine who just called me from the USA and told me that she was forced into nursing and it's not for her. So she has just dropped out.
Absolutely. So purpose is a big thing. Every single one of us is born with that specific thing that is burning deep inside of you and in your psyche as well, in your all the mental faculties, and that's your alignment. Okay, so where we go wrong, possibly as parents, and sad for that specific friend of yours, perhaps it was a parent trying to live their dream through you, because this is a family of nurses. We've had that. It's a family of footballers.
It's actually a family of nurses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then there's that differentiation. You have your own paths and destiny to follow through. You literally live through that destiny. It's something that you live through. It's just suspended because you're going through life. But ideally, for every destiny, it's something that's already packed inside of you. So you are conflicted if you went the other way. So I thank God then that literally we found each other. So destiny can be suspended, but so I see myself as a security man. I see myself as a liberator of the oppressed. I see myself as as a warrior, someone who stands in the gap.
How was the conscription like? Did you go run in Nyando, or where did you run?
Well, cadet also selection is different.
Yeah, how
so you apply through the normal channels. They advertise in the newspapers, so that's how we ended up applying. So bored and as hell, I joined martial arts in campus and all this to fill up the time. There were other stories in the back stories anyway. So friends are applying and say, man, you were born soldier, man. So, and then through relatives, and we find out, oh, there's this distant uncle who's in the army, a major. So thanks to Major Okoko. So we visit him and he says, yeah, man, come on, this is the guy we need. You can actually be a paratrooper. And then I remember...
Were they looking at your body? What were they looking at?
Yes, they were looking at my body, of course, physique and level of fitness.
Yeah, get off my mate.
Perhaps that as an additional point. And so he says, yeah, do an application and let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
So I did not bribe my way into the army. I'm so happy. And yes, you wait a few months down the line and I get a call, in campus. And I remember we were at Kikuyu campus. There was a game, inter-campus games. And a friend says, oh, you know what, your call is ringing incessantly. It doesn't stop ringing. Who's calling? Major so-and-so. Oh, okay, it's my uncle. But what could be going on? So I went and during some break, I called back and he says, check through today's newspaper and page this and that. And yes, for my name, it was easy to find because the B was after the A's, the arranged alphabetical order. So there's a Byron Adera there. And it's a general.
Why do they have to put it in the newspaper, though?
They do. It's a big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of you, people apply tens of thousands of applications to join cadet? prestigious organization, community of super achieved humans, commanders to be.
Yeah.
So they advertised them in the newspaper. Literally 2 pages full of just names, and then it said the hopefuls after shortlisted hopefuls after sieving through tens of thousands of applications, okay, that went through the DOD, as it was then, the Department of Defense, and then your name is there. Already you start to behave like a soldier.
That means you're in.
Almost, you have a foot through the door, okay? But then the 450 of you for the 2-week interview, literally, and I don't want to spill the secret out there. Please just rock up blind with the suited up and with the sharpshooters. We ran in those suits and sharpshooters. Obviously, something comes to you and they say it's a general service officer cadet interview. How would you turn up?
In a suit?
Absolutely. And the interview is like, any other that you've ever had to go to. Literally, you are there and they're checking through the paperwork, the first documentation, and then you're thrashed into a line and you're told, right now, it's going to be a 10-kilometer run and it's as cutthroat as it gets. Everything is gradable. No one is there to tell you where to take this coat, to where to change.
And when they're coming, they're laughing and they're saying, this guy is going to run in his suit.
Yes, and that's the first shock. Anyway, still turn up looking like that for any other people that are going to be turning up for cadet interview. So we ran in suits. But down the line, of course, you're finding coats that are thrown and left on the road. You go past a trouser. You go past shoes. And you realize, no, these are guys who are actually making it. So you let go of your suit. The tie is gone. And by the time you're getting back to that military establishment, AFTC as it was then, Armed Forces Training College, right now it's Kenya Military Academy, you almost in your boxers and knickers, but no one cares. If you made it, you made it. Okay? So the interview, which is 2-week interview, is as crazy as it gets. So from 450 of you in the newspaper shortlisted to just about 150. Actually, They tell you, look to your left, look to your right. Chances are only one of you among the 3 who've looked in their face is going to remain at the end of the interview.
What are they looking for?
Well, a lot of things. It's quite some rigorous test, both academics and aptitudes, mental, how good are you, temperament, character in you, the things that would construct a human being that's extremely balanced, both brain and brawn as well. So fitness has got to be peak, or someone who has the potential of being, you can be trained. Some of these things can be transformed. A lot of us, a lot of the guys who joined from, posh families and stuff like that were heavy-bodied and all, by the time you are doing the pass-out parade, which is now open for everybody to witness, everybody looks like a flute like that. So it's attainable. I hear people saying, this our family are big-bodied. And
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
The 2-week interview.
Yes.
How do you think our day-to-day jobs would look like?
Yes.
If we were to be given the 2-week interview. For example, if I wanted to employ somebody in my company, and I were to employ the same tactic that was being employed by the cadet to take someone, would you recommend it, and how would it look like?
Well, that is interesting. Literally, what you look for is character. What this looks for at the end of the day is character and the mental makeup that would define someone who's going to be here, who wants to be here. So the whole selection program is designed to weed out the dreamers. Anybody who just had a dream that this is a job I could just turn up, rock up cold and make it, they don't make it. They find out very quickly that they're not meant to be there. Fitness fails you, aptitude fails you. The character, as Warren Buffett said, when you're looking for the 3 things, he talks intelligence, integrity, knowledge, is it? But he says if if they don't have integrity, then don't look for the other 2. So if you were to design, and John C. Flanagan, a colonel in the US of A, when the US was thrashed into war in Japan, when the Japanese, bombed quite a few fleet of the American planes, they were dragged into World War very, very abruptly. So they sat down and said, we want people to fly planes and do this work, go to missions and make it happen. So that's when they designed what they call critical incident technique. Okay,
What is
which
that?
is used in as a form of analysis beyond just normal paperwork, height, how tall are you, like they do in the army, but it goes well beyond that to look at the character makeup that would define someone who really has their heart in the game. Okay, critical incident technique. It was Flanagan popularized then by the. So that's what the cadet thing looks at. You are forced into a game. Let's say you are arranged into what they call patrols or sections, and you're told, now you're playing against that other section, and the game is netball. Ordinarily, men, you and I would go, netball? You didn't get it wrong or right? And then that's the game. And the instructors are just there looking at you guys and judging. Are you just in a lackluster mood, or are you the guy who's still going out there and saying, it's not my turf, it's beyond my comfort zone, but I'll still play this game. The aptitudes are crazy. I mean, you dropped physics in Form 2. Thank God I did, all the way to Form 4, scored an A as well. And this exam, you meet it in the army.
Scored an A in physics?
Yes, I did.
Who?
Myself. Yes, I did. That's why
Congratulations.
I was doing this engineering thing, and well, they weeded us out and pushed us into Kabete instead of JK Watt, where I was destined to get to. So the exam comes and it's 90 questions, and you're doing this exam in 20 minutes. That's the cadet for you. And then the next you're into another classroom and you're doing geography and you dropped it.
They say the military and the police is a discipline of people who failed in school. Now it is not true.
It's not true. Do I look like someone whose IQ would miss out on the top 10? Ideally. And there's many more like myself in the army and thankfully again in the police. Yes, the grade is pushed that low to have afforded to get guys who feel in themselves that I want to be there. But that is changing. Cadet, for instance, the minimum grade is B at Form 4 level. Yeah, so to be kept to just get through the door in terms of your qualification at Form 4. And then graduates, we had in my class a graduate who was a first class honors in biochemistry. And he was a good guy, a steady guy, a strong lad. We used to carry logs with him, the big steamer logs. Is this Sindani, this is his name. He's freshly retired as well. He's out here, he's also serving the country from a different level. So it does happen that when you do a proper selection program where you allow people to not get selected but to select themselves, then you come out of that selection process with the best of the best. And to possibly emphasize the fact of selecting yourself is that they put a yardstick and they say, whoever rises above this yardstick, you are one of us. Like, of course, now later on, it's more emphasized in the most specialized units like the parachute regiment or the special forces now. It's a question of candidates selecting themselves. No one is there to actually even motivate you. You are told right from point A to point B with a big bag on your back, 60 pounds, and the time allowed is 2 hours. If you don't make it, you don't make it. I mean, people will see that you haven't arrived. And then they say, you can go back to your unit.
Let's quickly move now to, you've obviously selected as part of the 150 or thereabouts.
Selected myself, yes.
Huh?
Selected myself.
You passed the interview?
Yes, I did.
Okay. How does the training look like after this?
Oh, well, cadet training is horrible. By the time the president is given that piece of paper to read during graduation, and he says, now the cadets before you, actually now it enforces that, but the commander that's reading this before the president, like the cadets before you're on the graduation parade, have spent this number of months or years in cadet college. Yeah. So when they tell the president,
you can just sit a little bit stiller.
Yes. I'm trying to do. So when they tell the president, the cadets before you have gone through a very rigorous training for a duration of, like, say, over 2 years. Now it's 3 years. And they've been transformed from raw civilians into professional soldiers.
Raw civilians. Yes. You are the one who said you didn't like the word civilians, but you hear now you've even added another word so before that, raw civilians.
The Raya part of it makes it sound really, from where I said it doesn't give such respect or credit to being a civilian in the first place, which all of us were in the first place before you get transformed into anything, okay? Which I feel is respected. My dad, my mom was Rayas. my sisters, my brothers, and quite clearly a lot of people that are doing a good job as just being civilians. Not all of us have got to get through the army to become something, significant, okay? That's my only trouble with that. So it treats that. But that transformation process from raw civilian is crazy. I mean, if people tell you that you don't get time to sleep in training, it may sound like a joke, but it is not. You make your bed and you have what they call a full kit, like things arranged in a particular way and ironed. Your shirt, your jacket, bulky as it seems, can be ironed into 8 inches and 8 inches, my friend. And it fits in some box and it's laid on the bed like that. So you make your bed and you'd rather be sleeping under the bed because the following morning at 6, you have the bedside inspection. So the bed has got to look like that. So you sacrifice comfort, to higher visions or higher objectives that you're pursuing. And things are packed, end to end, back to back, that you literally transition from one activity to the you're already late for the next activity by the time you're here. By the time you're having lunch or breakfast, there's already an instructor who's worried sick that you guys are spending time taking lunch. The next program is you are late for the next program. So you are served hot rice and stew and it was uncommon to find someone sitting down to eat that up. You'd actually have that in a tap and have water flow into it, and you basically just drink it up. Nyama, you'd carry them in the pouches as you are running to the next program with a rifle in your hands. It's crazy.
You take the nyama, put it in your pouch, and then have the rice and the soup under.
Just drink it up. Tea, you'd empty a third of the what's in the mug like this and have it under the tap. I mean, it was just a question of filling your stomach so that you don't die of hunger. And hunger was a constant friend. Stories of you being able to eat 2 loaves of bread in a sitting in under 2 minutes may sound really uncommon, but that loaf of bread you brought me one here, I would show you. You can pretty much squeeze it into a ball and throw it deep into your stomach. It was a question of really just having something inside of you to keep you alive than to enjoy a meal. Okay? That's the first 3 months. It's as horrible as it gets, and everything is being taught, and you are running through this in sleeplessness, and people are sleepwalking.
What are some of the specific regimes that you remember that?
Physical fitness is perhaps one of the hardest of those things that you can. I mean, carrying those big logs, steamers as you know them today, was a something that was done almost daily, but it was more mentally torturous and psychologically torturous than even that. The fact that you're living through a program that doesn't seem to end, so the endlessness of it, and then the suspense that you don't know what to expect the following day. If you're in a school, you know the program running from.
Are they trying to improve the brawn, or they're trying to also get into your psyche?
Both. To be honest, the training is more mentally taxing than it is physically taxing, because what you grow into at the end of the day is someone who's mentally strong that can withstand anything, any adversity. If you are just a physically, strong person, there's things. I've seen people who are perhaps even bulkier and seemingly stronger, but who give up. They raise their hands up in the air and they say, I can't do this. Yeah? Their brains and their mental faculties failed them. So psychologically, that's what it actually focuses on. That you can be in 1 minute you're here, but then you're supposed to switch immediately, with no time for notice, basically, to get to the next level. So it's pretty taxing more mentally than it is physically, but mentally, physically, basically, just as challenging. Yes.
And this is preparing you for war, I imagine.
This prepares you for the ultimate business. War will come unannounced. War will come in its own shape and form. War will take you to a place that you don't plan to get to. War will take you into the jungles. You'll be cold and miserable and angry. You'll be forced to adjust. You'll be forced to throw in contingencies that you didn't feel were necessary or possible, not even possible. So that it prepares you to be able to accomplish missions as they come. And they come in different shapes, forms, timings, environments that are not of your choosing. And so it's the whole thing is designed to actually prepare a practically very operational individual in the profession of arms. more specifically in the military. That is, and as I said at the beginning, a very noble profession that requires the finest of humanity. I mean, the world over, and if you were to take it back to history, the historical days, the biblical days, the kings were dragged from the guys who were able to lead their nation's armies against adversaries, right? Yeah. And so those are the nobilities of the societies then. Those are the people who are the refined and the finest in the society that are standing for the society against the adversaries. Right about now, maybe the game is changing. Yeah, so that's where you need the finest of the finest. You need people who can stand in the line with the best of brains and brawn to literally take the business of life to the next level by standing in the gap when we're challenged from a security perspective. Yes.
Did they teach you about other armies out there?
Yes.
Like, for example, we are living in Kenya.
Yeah.
We are talking about, we border Tanzania, we border Uganda, we border, which other country do we border? I think those are the,
Sudan is
Sudan,
up north.
yes.
Yes, you have to. I mean, the focus, ideally, the army is postured to protect this country against its external adversaries. And who are those external adversaries? In the geopolitical sense, it has got to be your neighbors. I mean, when we were growing up, we heard of, was it Idi Amin Dada?
Yes.
That challenged Kenyatta then, the Kenyatta regime, and said, their border stretching all the way to Naivasha, Uganda. We'd be Ugandans today. You and I would be Ugandans today.
Yeah.
If the army did
maybe we should have been Ugandans. we would be buying beer very cheaply now, and the fuel wouldn't be too expensive, and we would be bringing cars that are more than 10 years old. We are having the best life. I mean, you know. I don't want to discuss this with you as an ex-military person.
Yes, there's two sides of a coin, the three sides of a coin, actually. But then, of course, every cloud has a silver lining, right? So I would imagine. But of course, the world today is very globalized, and these artificial borders that we're celebrating don't make as much sense. Because, I mean, how many times have you gone across the borders and you have friends literally across the globe? You're talking about the lady who's now in, and what she feels in the US is possibly of interest to you and a concern. So with the speed of movement of information and all these things that happen. But anyway, if you're talking about the posturing of the army, it's against adversaries. And so Uganda is a point of focus. Tanzania would be a point of focus. And a fight, war as it is fought today is well beyond the muzzle of the gun. If there's an economic effect and a dent that is being festered into this country because of the actions in Uganda or Tanzania, during Corona you had this story. They locked the borders or they don't have the lockdown. Tanzania was more laissez-faire with the way they dealt with Corona, and so you had cases seeping into this country. That is from a different perspective. Okay. So all these things are posturing to actually get within the court of what you'd feel is a subject for a country to fight in a way. Okay, so the army, yes, we learn a lot, and you compare notes as well. It's not just about the adversaries; it's about allies too. Who do we have friendship with? Who can come to our aid if the other man next door tries to kick our backside?
Yes,
and so you have allies. We have been very good allies with the British. The British, with Americans, and most definitely in the global scheme, other nations that we train with, that come in to train our forces, and that we take people abroad to train with. You
finish the training.
Yes.
What is your first posting, and how did it look like?
You can almost start to guess by that gang tattoo right there.
Yeah,
that's a parachute, right? Yeah. So we were 8 of us in that class of about 149. That raised our hands up in the air and said, we want to be in that most specialized, give it to us. We want to be, speaking for myself, I did. So it's for volunteers. The parachute regiment was then the most specialized of the units. Operational in terms of, taking the war to the enemy, and I wanted action. So I said, I'm going to be there, and I wanted something that was badass.
Maybe as raw citizens, please explain to me what a parachute regiment is.
Parachute regiment, 20 parachute battalion, as they called it then, was a unit that was specialized in parachute, in parachuting as a mode of transfer okay, of warriors to the battlefield, but that is being simplistic. This is the unit that was trained and specialized to be more refined than, or most refined than every other land forces. Remember, the army is an amalgamation of several other units. You have artillery, you'd have infantry units, and of course you have mortar people, you have tank battalions and stuff like that. So those are ground army to mean ground forces, okay? But then these are the men who you can say, well, we are fighting this enemy and this is the front line. We want to capture their command post behind the lines, deep within enemy lines. Who do we send? Men who have the courage to do things that are refined beyond what any ordinary soldiers can imagine or think of. That was us, okay? So the mode of transfer would be a plane would fly above. You can't go via roads or something because, I mean, it's the enemy lines are there. So you sneak in through an airdrop to simplify it, so parachuting. So that's a specialty and special skill that required men who are the home of the brave, as we call the parachute regiment, who are brave enough to take on such riskiest of operations to ensure that the army's mission is still delivered at the end of the day. And so, as you can imagine, there are very few of us.
We have always been told that Reke Squad is the best of the best.
Well, in their own trade, they are the best of the best among the police force, which is fine. But you can't compare the Reke force to the special forces. The comparison would be off. It's like comparing a fastest dog with a bunch of cheetahs. It would be off.
You have already compared them.
Well, it's a different ballgame altogether. So that was us in the parachute regiment. So there's some special skills, specialties that you don't find. Like in the Rekas, where they don't have the parachute or air insertion kind of skill sets, okay? There's limitations here and there. But all I'm saying, in their own right, they're trained in counterterrorism ops, they're very good, they're good shooters and stuff like that, perfect. But of course there's limitations which you leave to now the big boys. Obviously.
You're calling Reke the small boys?
The army is already a big boy compared to the police.
Yes.
The police are in here to do the greatest works to safeguard this country from its internal problems, okay?
Yes.
The army, as you can start to imagine, I mean, in your own home, if the wife stands in to actually, be the head of the home and run the home as best as possible. As a man, you are going out there to fetch stuff and bring it to the family.
Yeah.
There's definitions, right, for every task and jobs and missions. So the police are doing a perfect job, postured by constitution and of course the makeups of the organization itself to help with the internal problems. When the country is burning and things are going berserk astray, who do you call? Like you saw after post-election violence, that's why you got in as the army, as an aid to civilian authority under what we called marker ops, military aid to civilian authority. Okay, so when this total breakdown, law and order, you call in the army for restoration of law and order. Okay, so which ideally, goes without saying, that it's gone beyond what is in the pecking order, the pay grade of man A, and so we call in man B to come and rescue this drama. Okay, and you see it even in counterterrorism ops that have happened and which we all know about, Westgate and all. You'd have a battle handover. The NPS and the Reke Squad were there, and so they called in the special forces when, the embargo had gone in for some time, the lockdown, the siege, Siege had gone down for some time. And so they called in this. But I'm happy my own troop operated in there, and several other operations. Yeah, so that's how it's postured. So the selection and how I joined the parachute regiment, again, 8 of us in that cadet class of 159, we joined, and there's a very thorough selection again. You've gone through a very painful process in the cadet college, and you'd be mad enough to say, I still want more of that. And the parachute regiment selection is only 5 days of hell. We call it Hell Week. Includes other unimaginable things like pushing a Land Rover when you're a team of only 4 through thickets and stuff like that. The driver is being mischievous and he keeps stepping on the brakes. They only wanted to stop for a second, and then you are ushered into the car. They'll start it and they drive you back to camp, and you're failed. And that's not the only activity. There's the log races of this world. There's the hill runs, a steep hill, 60-degree gradient, and you have 2 hours to make a lap.
Where do they do these trainings? In Mount Kenya or
no, we did it in Gilgil. We didn't get the home of the brave, as I called it, the home of the most specialized of men, as we call it. And it's
what is so special about Gilgil, by the way?
I feel Gilgil has some of the army's most, the strongest teeth and the best of its warriors. That was actually home to the special forces. That's where we all started, because they needed to have now the most specialized again.
But I'm talking about in terms of training. Is the terrain better for training?
Yes, absolutely. The terrain is amazing for training. And the areas.
Are there some man-made ones, or they just all natural?
Well, natural quite a bit. If you've gone to Gilgil, it's such a town that's surrounded by hills. Okay, and that's a perfect ground for training people on hill ops and just having people to be tortured.
I also hear that it's a very beautiful place, especially when you're not in training.
Beautiful is debatable. I didn't see anything quite interesting about Gilgil, especially from the normal other life perspective. We had quite a few clubs to fight with each other about, you said that you are here or you are there, and so there was nowhere to hide or to have your fun in a reasonable way. Especially from our perspective, we are thinking you are an officer, and the army is very keen to have you as officers being a clear line drawn in the sand between yourselves and your men, so that people don't just mix unreasonably. So that was happening. So you get into this club and someone comes and says, "Hello, Afande," and you don't want that Afande thing to be, when you're in the civilian world. There's quite some discipline. So you walk in this town and you hear someone say, "Hello, sir, I'm a Jambo Afande." If you are with someone you didn't want to know what you do, and it's a cover for you for safety reasons as well, that would really blow your cover, right? So there are valid reasons as to why we had that. So Gilgil, yes, but it's very interesting in terms of the placement of that Kenyatta barracks right there. As a good frontier from threats that were imagined then and were real then, that were coming from Uganda. So more specifically, you had this barracks as being, and the posturing of barracks is with respect to how easily can we mobilize troops, let's say, to withstand an invasion from our now imagined real and imagined or perceived enemies, okay? And which we said quite clearly, when you are training or posturing your army, you already are thinking the blue nation, the red nations would be ordinarily, first of all, our neighbors, because of reasons of politics and other things. And war, as they say, is an extension of politics by other means. Yeah. So the politics then in Uganda was, Amin was imagining his borders are extending all the way to Naivasha. And so the response, which was political, but of course now through the army, said, not an inch. Kenyatta said, not an inch, not a ground, not an inch. And so we'll post your armies to fight you to the last man, okay? So that is politics, and that's war, and that's geopolitics in the grand scheme of things, depending on the way you look at it.
Yeah. What do you after the cadet training, you go to the parachute? What do you call it? The regiment?
The parachute regiment, yes.
Parachute regiment.
Yeah.
And then after that, what happens?
Well, now you become a paratrooper. Interestingly, once the selection is really tight. Those 5 days, come on, it weeds out more dreamers. So my parachute regiment class was 144. Facing this election. Already you are a soldier, there are soldiers, already you're an officer. Then they push you through the selection 5 days. And mind you, the 5 days is actually back to back. Literally starts at dawn to dusk.
And they're marking you.
And they are literally, we finished the end of that selection program at 28. Yeah, that was the mark. 28 out of the 144. So you can imagine, these are proven soldiers. These are cream de la cream. They went through the soldiering and the cadet officer training, and they get here. And they still read you out. Good for you, you don't lose your job. At that particular point, you go back to your unit, your green unit. So you join this exclusive club, but you haven't jumped on parachutes yet. So the men who are our soldiers who still salute you, Jambo sir, Afande we bado ni penguin. You are one of us, but you can't fly.
You can't fly.
Yes. So
you're a penguin.
You're a penguin.
Yeah.
You can't charge this guy. He's talking facts. And this is a unit that has very strong personalities. People who, they are your soldiers, they call you sir or Afande, they salute you, but they'll tell you, Afande hapo umekosea. Very strong personality. So the training actually refines character even better, because we also understand it's an esprit de corps par excellence. They are refined. Someone who's right at your back when you're jumping on parachutes is the guy who's going to call out anything he sees wrong with your parachute, and that saves your life. And the same you do to the guy in front of you and the guy behind you. So it gels us together in such a strong manner that it builds such a strong team. Like, people do teamwork, team buildings today. And the BA challenge, that I lead, does these team buildings, and we bring out those army lessons, the ethos from the army and deep lessons from army life and experiences, and we use that to actually inform how and help businesses and organizations run their things better by telling them how to, or giving them lessons, and of course experience lessons as to how teams can. So army, as they call it, the team of teams. So the parachute regiment, you can start to imagine, is actually a lot more stronger. The spirit decoy is there. It's crazily strong in terms of just their will to fight and will to go, beyond the refinement of ordinary soldiers. And so is the special forces. So later on, after becoming a platoon commander of a great parachute regiment unit, a platoon is 30 men. I went on to become a company second commander, also commanding. A company now has those 3 platoons brought together with other support elements. And then, lucky for me and really humbled about that, is by the time the Special Forces idea was being coined in this for Kenya, we were the pioneers, which again takes you through.
What is that?
The Special Forces is now the most specialized of any army unit, as we call it, globally, internationally. These are now the top 1% of the army life, okay? So the men that are serving in the Special Forces are refined well beyond ordinary soldiering or any other soldier that you know of and you've had to meet. So meeting a Special Forces operator is literally a top 1% of any army man that you've ever known. So
what exactly, how would you define this top 1%?
The top 1%, the men who are now more intrinsically very motivated, who are refined mentally as well, who are well refined, with their physical capacities and abilities as well, and who go into this unit, volunteering for this unit to serve at a level that is well beyond what is imagined of and what is real in any other military setup. You've seen the movies of where a unit is here, they're being briefed on this mission. It's a clandestine mission that's going to be waterborne, let's say. So it's a naval kind of insertion, and they are there. Then the next they come back home and they're on coffee and they get a call and they're going to be going next to some desert environment, and they still FedEx excellence in terms of that operation. And then the next, there's this mission and it's a rescue operation and it's behind enemy lines, like I'm saying, and the insertion method would be skydive in. So that's Special Forces. Ideally, would imagine a jack of all trades and a master of all. That's what the special. So the specialties that you are being trained in as one soul, as a Special Forces operator, are beyond imagination. I'm able to get out of this place and interdict a vehicle, more like hijack a vehicle and rescue. It's the terrorists have kidnapped you, Mr. Chagero, and the men that would be called in to come rescue you and surgically kill or neutralize the aggressor and rescue you safely would be people like me. Okay? And then the next, there's a hostage situation, like say Dusit and all these other places that have happened. It's a Special Forces kind of playground. Okay, and you want people to do very clandestine surveillance operations on an enemy camp or something before, build intelligence enough to know their routines and everything, and so plan an operation and execute that operation in a clandestine way without any casualties on the outside. That's the playground of the Special Forces. And still someone who's able to be a normal human being like myself or like you, to still be able to operate like any other normal person, if it's so required that we don't say who we are. Yes. So that's really quite some, in a nutshell, that defines the specialty that you have in the Special Forces. Yeah,
the 1%.
The 1%.
What are some 3 situations, near-death situations that you remember in your service as a what we call you parachute regiment?
Oh, Special Forces operator.
Yes.
Well, it starts right from the parachute there, because when you join this, and this should sound very strongly to any other hopefuls, when you join the profession of arms, be it police, army, then you sign up for a mission. Literally, the whole thing is for you to go get tested in the battlefield. That's the whole idea. But well, I know there's other army parts, they fight from different perspectives. There's signalers, there's people who deal with the ordnance, transport. They also play very vital roles, okay? It's all a unit coming together to support each other from different perspectives. And so for me, an operational unit like this, the parachute regiment, as it was, I remember graduating in 2007, so that year, one interesting thing was happening in the country, so that's the post-election violence, right? And so we were the people who are taken to go help. The army was involved because there was breakdown and law and order. Chaos was raining all over the place, and so we had to rein in that chaos. So the army came in through the military aid to civil authority infrastructure to help with that. I was in Eldoret. I mean, this was crazy because it informed part of what I went through. So I think it started then, the post-traumatic stress and all. Crazy things were happening in Eldoret. There was several of those instances. I mean, you'd go in to do your patrols and the Michales that were renowned for being very poisonous and all. You'd go into the mortuaries and you're finding bodies that are, this huge because of the effect of that poison and all. So we had quite a bit of that, and we were stretched thin, and these sleepless nights, day and night, running battles, and so bodies that are dismembered and all these things. And of course there were direct attacks at us. Maybe you'd think there were not weapon systems, but the Michales and all, it's a silent. You'd fear Michales from my perspective than even the weapons. I would fear the Michales because for a weapon there'd be a report. If someone shoots and good news it misses us, you'd pretty much home in on where it's come from because there's going to be that report. These silent ones are crazy, right? So there'd been a thicket somewhere and all. So there's those situations without going into the details. But the most important one, the most interesting one in the earlier stages was the Sabaot Land Defense Forces thing, which we participated in. Honored to have led the first ground, combat foot in. When
you say you are leading, what does that mean? Leading from the front or shouting from the back?
Literally again, practical again, leading from the front. So I was a platoon commander then under a unit of...
what is a platoon commander? A
platoon commander is when you graduate as a lieutenant, you are called a platoon commander ordinarily because the platoon is the smallest unit that a second lieutenant, Nyota Moja, would lead. So a platoon is composed of our regular soldiers, our servicemen, 30 of them. Among the 30, you have key leaders of sections. So section is like 10 men, give or take. So there's a section commander as a corporal. There's this second in command who's a lance corporal. So 3 of these sections, you see the army standing in 3 lines. So you have section 1, section 2, section 3, 3 lines. They make up 30, 10, 10, 10. And then in front of them would be a platoon sergeant. That is your linkman between the men and the officer world. He also comes from our regular servicemen side of things, okay? So your sergeant is the soldier's father. So he's the guy who's your link with the men, and it transitions your words and of command and, of course, instructions, as you can call them, into that unit, okay? So I led a platoon of that sort into Mount Elgon. During this time, you needed a specialized unit to walk through enemy gaps, what we call insertion operations, to go and secure an area where when the first operations were going to go down, you needed eyes and boot and security. You can't bring in a plane, let's say a helicopter, to land people in a place that has not been secured. Okay, so we did what you would call a pathfinding operation. So we were the pathfinders. You were setting the first foot there. You were being used as a litmus paper. If you died there, then oh wow, it wasn't a good road. So we could change to a different one. Okay, so I'm honored to have led that first wave. If it was not successful, the operation couldn't have gone down the way it did. So it's always. Any pathfinding, any insertion operations that is preparatory to any other follow-on operations is dependent on you. Everything is relying on you to succeed so other people can follow through, or other operations that are very critical, mission-critical operations can follow through. So yes, I did. As a platoon commander then, as a Byron Adera led troops, and it was fairly successful. You get there and it's pretty cold. Got there at about 3:45 a.m. The first round was supposed to go down. That's a combat round, either artillery shells or something was supposed to go down at 6:30 in the morning. And so with what we did, the whole operation was successful. I remember, most importantly, beyond being shot, for the first time in my life in that mountain, is the fact that there's so many people that we liberated. As you said, you liberated the oppressed. Women were getting raped in that mountain. The SLDF had attacked police stations and stolen guns and, military-grade hardware, in police hands. And so I'm happy that with some of the successful operations, both internally and externally, across the borders that we've done, a lot of people have been rescued. A lot of people are breathing easier. Life is more normal to other people than it used to be. In terms of counterterrorism ops, this is a transnational threat, and it's shared by nations across the globe. As George Bush said, terrorism anywhere is terrorism everywhere. Okay, and so we were pretty much involved in, or I was particularly, in very successful operations, without going into details, and without giving credit to perhaps me getting or earning like the mental illnesses that I did out of those operations. The best part of this news is that a lot of lives breathed easier because of my involvement in the whole game plan.
How was the Somali operation for you?
Beautiful, very lovely. I love war, to give an extent. I'm a warrior. Not in a bad way. I mean, I'd love to go out there to help and liberate the oppressed, and that's something that I would do any day. I now do it from a different perspective. I rescue people from poor health, both physical and mental health. I help with the things that I know because there are things I've experienced, and the things that you experience, as my dad used to say, God rest his soul in peace, Adera Senior, are the things that you actually know have worked. Okay, so there are things that I can help with because I've experienced them and I've known them to actually work, given the experiences. So Somalia was a good ground for putting my skill sets, special skill sets, leadership of the special men that the special forces were, as young as we were then, into practice. And that got us into the operational momentum and traction that the counterterrorism operations that the Army, the Kenya Defense Forces, and through the Kenya as a country itself sponsored against the ragtag, or rather the terrorists, the Al-Shabaab, to a point where it is manageable. Remember when we used to have these grenades thrown in churches and all this? Doesn't happen as much anymore, right? So terrorism has got to be fixed. And some of us have been at the front line, vocalizing our opinions and helping with expert security analysis as and when they happen in the unfortunate, instances they have, to help inform, public opinions, and also to help with mass media output of critical lessons to the general populace as to how to behave and carry their businesses out in a manner that helps them get out of the line, firing line. So yes, Somalia in a nutshell was a good place to put.
What do you remember about it? Is there a particular operation that has stuck with you up to?
Well, there's several special forces, very clandestine operations, most of them intelligence driven, and of course that will lead into combat itself. Without going into details, I'll tell an interesting one.
Yes.
So we are here in Satting, getting into a place. Intelligence had come and said, we realize there's contraband and there's a landing site that Al-Shabaab is using to land their contraband and stuff, because of course that they got to get money to run their logistics. So contraband has been an issue with Somalia, right? Because of our porous borders. So you got to go and get eyes on the ground to do what we call close target reconnaissance, CTR, on this particular place where there's activity of the enemy. And so the best hunting time, or the best time for insertion, is always night time for us. We are the night owls. So we are here, we've been dropped by the vehicles, and I'm leading this special strong patrol, and we're getting in without mentioning the numbers. So you have your lead scout and the commander is the second in the line. You're doing a lot of things, focusing on how to manage this team, having all the big picture awareness of everything else. You have the plan. Every person in the special forces has the plan that you have as a commander, and that's a beautiful thing. I see you working flawlessly with your team here, and that's a beautiful thing. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do, and you seem to know everybody else's roles as well. That's the special forces for you. So it's not a one-man show. There's no headmaster and everybody else is just a teacher. Everybody is cross-trained in everybody else's roles. So anyway, we are scouting through some patch and we get into an open field and we are seeing some hills, some to ant hills. And we are in the middle of the ant hills. And then the ant hills wake up and start running. That was hairy. Beyond any enemy activity, anything that compromises your presence in the field or in the battlefield as a special forces is quite a frustration. Like it kills your spirit. These ant hills were buffaloes. So you must have heard of the Boni Forest. There's quite a few of those. We're walking and they're huge. So they are there, they're resting in this patch. And we're walking through and we're thinking these are two small bushes or ant hills. Trust me, a round fired at that particular point in time, and they are running berserk and all of us were on trigger too. Everybody's taking an aim and we're in the middle of this chaos. You are going in, you're already within the enemy territory. Any shot that rings, you've announced your presence. Camp is tens of kilometers away, in which case, if rescue were to be called, you'd already be in some serious battle or possibly killed and detached from help. And after talking all this much about special forces, if you are the guy who's told like special forces are now pinned down and they're getting a beating from an enemy, would you go?
No. I would not go. Let's talk about mental health. Yeah. Why is it that most officers suffer mental health issues?
Well, the exposure, I know what's majorly known out there is PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And exposure to traumatic experiences, and that affects not just combatants, but even civilians. I mean, you've been involved in an accident, or there's something traumatic that's happened in your life. That's PTSD. But for soldiers, as I mentioned at the beginning, training itself converts you, right, from raw civilian into a military practitioner soldier. So with that, as even to think about that, so the adjustment disorder is a huge thing, like failing, to adjust back to where you are, because you are changed. Your mental faculties are changed. You are thinking differently. And that's where you hear of, huyu alijoin jeshi alafu akachange. Yes, you have, because your perspectives are different. Your discipline is notched up. You look at ordinary people, like you call them, ordinary civilians, as you call them. Raw civilians. And you think, how are they coping with life if they're just this laissez-faire? That's the whole, you're looking at life differently. Yeah, the things that are very basic and common sense to you are not as sensical to other people. So then when you get back here, that adjustment disorder is a big thing. It's your own family, it's your spouse, it's your children, and they don't understand, you don't understand them. That's a big thing. It impacts you mentally because you're thinking like, I'm the one left out. They seem to be okay. They're the majority. But right about it now, I would tell you that sometimes the path that's followed by many, as it's known even today, sometimes it's possibly a path that takes you astray. Universal suffrage doesn't seem to me that it works too well, because going by what Carlo M. Kepola says in his 5 fundamental basic laws of human stupidity, he says the majority of us are actually stupid. Anyway, away from that subject, what fundamental changes that happen to you when you're exposed to traumatic experiences particularly, gets you into that region where your mindsets are changed, your mental faculties are changed very fundamentally, and the adverse effects of this would be even suicidal instincts that start to show up because you feel the deep feelings of rejection and emptiness they get in there. Depression will set in because of other things. There's things that are impacting you here. Once you are set up for one mental illness, other things can actually follow. Okay? So yes, it's a unit that is highly operational and highly exposed, so to speak, in a nutshell. And that's why when you feel, people have a feeling of the people who've gone to war and served in very operational unit and very stressful environments such as the army or even the NPS, the National Police themselves, they are more predisposed to suffer from mental illnesses. And the way maybe we are postured as well within those systems themselves work counterintuitively to address those problems. Because when you come up with now, say, alcoholism because of depression, because of PTSD, it's looked at as indiscipline rather than a case to handle from a medical perspective so that you are helped. But most importantly, again, when now we are out here, because eventually, even when you're serving the army, you get your off days to get to family, you get your off days, or maybe you retire. And you get back to where? To the general citizen who, again, don't understand you as well. Okay, so it gets worse. It spirals. Then the society brands you. The society actually works also very counterintuitively to maybe the well-intentioned interests. And we brand people. Ule kevo madrinks, you know, that drunkard. Okay? Yet that is actually a symptom to something deeper happening inside of you. Okay, how do you approach someone who's suffering from malaria or typhoid, who's going down with diarrhea or something? You don't say, "Oh, why did you allow yourself to be bitten by a female anopheles mosquito?" Or, you know, come on, live your own life. You say, you empathize and say, "Oh, malaria. Oh, I'm sorry, man. In quick recovery. Have you seen a doctor?" But then, how do you react to people who are mentally ill and have turned to alcohol as a source of comfort? We dismiss them as drunkards, right? Including our friends, families. And so that's why people take their own lives, because at the end of the day, they get worse and worse, not because of those things that are happening to them, but because, again, of our reactions to what they are going through. So it's a running call to folks out there. You know, being a brother's keeper means that you actually meaningfully care. Being in someone else's shoes means that you care beyond the knowledge that you have for yourself. You say, I will leave this knowledge, I'll dissert my position and my perspectives and try to see deeper things about Mr. Jagero, you know, being the guy who's closest to his bottle as a source of comfort, more than anything else. Why they are suddenly quiet, why they are very irritable when you talk to them, why they cannot sustain relationships meaningfully. And mental disorder are perhaps, and mental disabilities are perhaps the worst form of disabilities beyond physical, and you see someone who doesn't have hands, doesn't have limbs. Literally mental disabilities are the worst of them all, and that's why we need to actually really focus. People have made it in life without limbs and legs, but you cannot make it meaningfully in life if your mental faculties are not fixed. And that's why mental health and mental wellness is a big thing, and not just for combatants, but again, for the world now. Things are becoming increasingly stressful, and Kenya is not scoring very well in terms of mental health. That's why the other day, the BA Challenge, in partnership with a company called Mayafi, it's a team of psychologists, we had a talk, and that was flanked by the second lady, High Excellency, Pastor Dorcas Gashagwa at Daystar University the other day. And it was just a talk, so it was storytelling for healing, harmony, and hope. When we tell our stories, someone reflects upon it and says, "Oh, wow, it was like that." And that alone helps things. Earlier on, we didn't have psychologists, did we? When we were growing up, we didn't. But we just had wise men within the society. We just had people, and we were more gelled together socially. And so a problem you had was someone else's already an anthill. It was a hill to you now, but it's... And so the society and the way they're gelled together, we were able to go through the business of life easier and better. There were no professional psychologists, but there were wise men. There was the society that was present around you. And that's why that social factor is very important. You know, being a brother's keeper, that's what we have to inspire today.
Yeah. So how do people that are in the army or in the special forces or in this discipline deal with mental health?
Yes, I think the army has come a long way. Now I'm happy they have wellness centers where psychosocial support happens quite a bit, and they are put up these centers in a manner that they're more helpful to the people that are serving. I think they also opened them up to veterans. Because, I mean, like I said, the people who have retired or people that are out there boarded on medical grounds, they are part of the civilian populace now. You know, the good citizens. They are soldiers. Once a soldier, always a soldier, yes. But the wellness centers has opened the doors today. There's teething problems to that. Maybe the numbers, maybe the infrastructure, maybe the reach is not sufficient. So yes, now there are, but earlier on there wasn't as much. You'd have one psychologist, and my good friend Major Retired Wariu Mukuria, have been with our on national and international platforms talking about this, was the one that was really helpful. You know, then she was the first animal psychologist for our soldiers then. But some of us didn't face up to those kind of scenarios. Literally, personally, I didn't get that kind of help. I had to cope through other means and ways when out here. Sadly, lost a friend who, after being boarded on medical grounds, set himself on fire. above 94% burns, and and he died by suicide. So there are sad scenarios there, okay, and there are good examples, if you may, that inform us, to get better and to focus on some of the things maybe that we've not considered, as an army. And perhaps also a general citizenry that are got to realize that there's a part and a role that they play as well. Like I said, the army has very small percentage representative of the entire populace. And it's a fact that these people come from families. And you can be half a world away, but just that phone call as a family member, that we understand your job, we appreciate your service, we know what you're going through, is good enough to set someone on a better path. Okay, so there's the role that we all play in the whole game plan. It's not just the army dealing with the wellness centers and having all these infrastructures coming up, which I'm happy is a step in the right direction and it's coming through, but a lot has got to be done. But then again, I'm saying here that the general populace, the citizenry, have got to realize that your ignorance is upsetting someone or an equilibrium somewhere that ought to be filled by your relevant actions. And being a loving spouse, being an understanding child, being a good citizen that understands that mental health is not only the province of a few, it affects all of us, and there's a role that we play to lessen the burden of mental.
All right, great. We are coming to the end of this podcast. Thank you very much for coming up and showing up. Because I want you to tell the people, our audience, what you do right now that you're out of the military.
Well, I'm a very good citizen. I'm out here. I run few caps. Yeah, I have a few on my head. Well, I'm a chief exec at the BA Challenge, and the BA Challenge, the Byron Adera Challenge, which was started just before Corona, but of course found quite some benefit on whatever we were seeing happening during Corona. So fitness is focused on events, basically. So fitness, both mental and physical. We do quite a bit out there in terms of organizing team building sessions for corporates and individuals as well. Boot camps for our children, both males and females. We have specialist trainings on survival, which is a great skill to actually have. Hikes, a lot of all these things. Basically, what we're doing is we're using expeditions, indoor and outdoor expeditions, to advance issues, family, health, and environment, which is a big thing. And within that organization, the BA Challenge, we have teams, that are very critical to its specific survival. We have great individuals with special expertise on those areas that we've talked about, and of course the support elements, and including, of course, psychologists to help. So whenever we're actually out there, even hiking and doing this and that, we have people to create that safe space. And once you're done with the hikes, people sit down, camping, experiences, and then people just talk in those safe spaces. So that's one. The other bit, which is basically my forte, is security. So I'm an expert security guy, as you've seen maybe in national and internationally. Expert security analyst with both national and international media. But beyond that, I also am a security practitioner. I'm a security consultant. So if you're looking for cream de la cream, and with all due respect to the rest that also do a proper job out there, but I mean, excellence is as a space for just a few, right? And that's why there's others, and then there's us. So yes, I'm a security guy guru, but as well we are running this the BA Challenge, which is home of the very, very best in this field. We are on social media, so on these social sites, it's basically at Byron Adera, and on your YouTube, at Byron Adera Thoughts and Insights. In all the pages.
I saw you had an interview with a gentleman. I don't know whether it was a fellow security officer under trees in a forest somewhere.
Yes. We've had many, but the two gentlemen you're talking about here, one of them is served with him in the army, cadet, Major Retired Babuya Bonaya. So,
yes,
that so we're
one.
talking about the making of a military officer.
Yes.
Then with my good friend, comrade in the Special Forces, Isaac, a great man in the Special Forces. So we're giving those little ideas that are inspirational to whether others who want to join the army, or just lessons from the army for others to uptake. So in all those social media sites, it's at Byron Adera. Facebook, they gave me that name in Somalia, Black Panther. So on Facebook is Adera B Panther. But the pages for BA Challenge is basically BA Challenge and Byron Adera, both sides, and on YouTube as well. So there's quite some bit of information going on.
All right, great. Thank you very much. It is an honor having you, explaining to us the nitty-gritties of being a military person, why they follow commands and the discipline in the army. So thank you very much, people of the internet, for tuning into another episode of Dialogues with Jagero. I am very much committed to bringing bold conversations to your device and to your TVs and there at home. So I would ask you that you subscribe to the channel, so that it helps. The more people like Adera would only come here once they have seen the numbers. So for us to have the numbers and bring people of value to you, it would be nice to have subscribers. And please subscribe, hit on that notification bell. Give us a comment if you have a question, if you have, and if you have a guest that you want us to bring to this dialogue, please do bring that. And so until another episode, bye for now.